share the screen. Right, so my name is Tawnya Cheatham and I work in the international office at Kingston. So I'll give you a few brief slides about general information about Kingston, and then I'll be handing over to Andy, who's going to talk about the STEM subjects at Kingston. So a lot of UK universities have wonderful facilities, great academic programs, so it's difficult for students sometimes to think about which university to choose. So it's always helpful to tell you a few key points about our university and what makes Kingston special. So for Kingston, I think the location is one of our key points. We're in a beautiful riverside location. I've lived in Kingston for 3 years now and absolutely love it. We also have a very strong background in entrepreneurship. So we are #2 in the UK for graduate startups. We have very strong teaching focused. And in fact, in 2017, we were the winner of the Guardian Teaching Excellence Award. And also we do offer 12-month postgraduate work placement opportunities. So these are available for all of the STEM subjects at Kingston. I'll talk more about that later. And finally, our degree programs are very practical, employment focused. So we do our best to prepare students for actually working in the real world. Now, a little bit more about the location. We are located in Kingston upon Thames. It is part of London. You can see from the map on the left, we're located in southwest London. It is the safest borough in London. It is on the River Thames. So there are a lot of cafes and restaurants along the river. You can see swans, go walking in the beautiful sunshine in the summertime. And it is still very close to central London, though. It's only 25 minutes to get to the very center of Waterloo Station. And it is a student town, so everywhere you go, because we're such a large university in the town, you'll see students everywhere, and quite often you'll get student discounts in most of the shops and restaurants. So it's a really nice place to be a student. Now, we do have 4 campuses. The campuses are spread across the locations around Kingston, depending on what subject you'll be studying. Now, the computing degree subjects are taught at our main campus. That's the Penryn Road campus in the center of town. And then most of the engineering programs are taught up at the Roehampton Vale, which is a dedicated engineering campus. All of these campuses are connected by a free university bus. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes to get from the center of town to the 3rd and 4th campuses. And we do offer 8 halls of residence. Some of these are located right on campus, some of them very close to campus. So it depends on which campus you'll be studying at. And they are guaranteed for international students. So that would be for your first year of study, you're guaranteed a place in the accommodation options. Now, most of the halls have a private bathroom. All of the rooms are private, so you won't be sharing with anyone, you'll have your own room. There is a shared kitchen and a shared lounge, so you might have 6 students. Each of you have your private room. You'll cook your dinners in the evening in a shared kitchen. So it's a nice way to meet students from different countries and different subject areas. There is a laundrette on every accommodation option. There's 24-hour security. There is free Wi-Fi, and there is a free shuttle that connects the accommodation with the various campuses. Now, the prices range, so it depends on what your budget is. We have anything from £480 a month all the way up to £740 a month for the really luxury 2-bedroom accommodation. So it depends on your budget which one you'll choose. Now, we do offer international scholarships, and many students ask about our fees. So for all of our science, engineering, and computing degrees, the tuition fees range at postgraduate level between £13,700 and £14,100. Now, that's an all-inclusive fee. It covers all of your academic fees for that year. Undergraduate fees are between £12,300 up to £14,200 per year. And the same as postgraduate, that is a all-inclusive comprehensive fee. So scholarships, we do get asked a lot about scholarships. We offer £4,000 international scholarships. These are available for undergraduate and postgraduate students. All international students are welcome to apply. We base the decision on your academic merit. So that could be anything about your grades. We look at your 12th standard, your degree transcripts, might look at your work experience or any extracurricular activity if it is related to your subject. Now the deadline you need to apply, that's a very strict deadline, 31st of May for the September intake or 16th of November for the January intake. So you need to have an offer for a course before you can apply for the scholarship. I generally recommend applying for a course at least 1 month before the deadline. That gives you enough time to get an offer and get your scholarship application in. So if you're thinking of applying this September, you really need to apply by the end of this month, by the end of April, to give enough time to get an offer. So that's my general introduction. I'm now going to pass over to Andy, Professor Andrew Lung, to talk about these STEM subjects at Kingston and why it's a good idea to study these subjects. Just one moment.
Thank you. Okay, now I hope you can all see me. By the way, just to tell you, I used to be more handsome than you're looking now, okay? So, but that is because I have been working in engineering for many years. I like the subject, and what I'd like to share this story with you as well. Now, on your screen, you actually can see the STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Maths, okay? So now the story actually starts with this. If you actually try to relate STEM to everyday lives activities, you see everything which is actually connected to STEM as well. And that's how we actually use STEM subjects to connect to the real world, which including actually things like the purification of water, medical science, communication using mobile phones, even actually visiting planet Mars and the moon. Now, I have heard that India is actually planning to send someone to the moon within the 10 years. So what do we need? We need actually space technology. And at Kingston, we actually offer the space technology subjects as well. So in fact, if you actually look at this actually picture, you see everything actually is connected to STEM, and STEM's actually connected to the real world. So that's how we actually are convinced that STEM will be the future. Now, indeed, if you have to look at the next slide, okay. Now, these are the statistics actually reported by some of the leading newspapers. They actually suggested that in this century, 21st century, many countries are planning to grow the economy through high-tech projects and employments. And they reckon that the world will need actually about 20 to 30% more STEM graduates in the next 10 years in order to meet the increasing demand. Now, I mean, if you actually think about it, it's not a surprise at all. If you look at actually currently, how many companies are involved in driverless car, and then the technology of driverless car involved software, engineering, automotive, and robotic control. So you can see that now actually STEM is actually not a single individual subject, but they're all interconnected. And this STEM subject also allowed, the people like yourself and myself connect to the real world. So in short, STEM employment opportunities really have to be growing very rapidly. Okay, now, if you actually want to break it down into what exactly jobs, kind of jobs that you would be able to fulfill after your graduation at Kingston, these are the various actually jobs prospects: engineering, automation, IT projects, internet, data communication, networking, computing security, which is a high profile topic at the moment, because of the hacking going on, construction management, and programming for driverless cars and games. Don't forget games technology, by the way. I don't know actually you guys actually play games. I do a lot actually. And apparently in the games industry is actually worth about something like $7 billion in the whole world. So there is actually always something for everybody, if you're involved in games. Not playing, but programming, okay? Now, if you actually look at actually a product like the Airbus 380, it's the biggest air passengers aircraft in the world. It can actually sit up to 853 people. Now, I have not got the fortune of sitting in one yet, but I hope actually some of you actually have. And it is actually a marvelous piece of engineering product to take people from A to B. All these actually sort of journey, over 1,000 miles with 853 passengers all on board. So now I already mentioned, automotive is actually a big thing. So all the production, automotive production for cars now are almost actually automatically robotic, automated. Okay, look at actually all these achievement of the construction management. This is actually, by the way, not many people know about this. This is actually the world's longest bridge. Okay, and it is actually not in San Francisco, as you may have imagined. Golden Bridge is in China. It was actually opened in June 2011. I didn't know this until actually I Googled it. And it actually spans across more than 102 miles from the A to B. So which is about 1,650 football pitches. If you guys play football, you can imagine how long the bridge is. And not to mention, obviously, the driverless car, which is actually the latest development of combining AI, artificial intelligence, computing, sensor technology, and of course, engineering. So all actually combined into making the driverless car possible. Now, not to mention, data communication is also actually a big thing. Things like actually automatic landing gear for aircraft, the autopilot, and obviously driverless cars as well. So all these actually require telecommunication technology. And who's going to provide it? Well, university do, and obviously graduates like yourself actually also have to play a good part as well. So now, if you have to look at actually some of the courses that we actually offer at Kingston University, they are all actually focusing on STEM, by the way, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And it include aerospace, architecture, building and surveying, chemistry and pharmaceutical science, computer animation, construction management, data communication, environmental management. Now, this page excites me because it has a lot of engineering subjects, and I'm actually from engineering as well, okay? So things like mechanical engineering, software, games technology, information systems, statistics, mathematics, software engineering, project management, which is actually a big thing now because a lot of companies actually are project driven, okay? And then product design, 3D printing, renewable energy, and robotic technology and control. Now, the good news is we actually are offering all these actually courses in our MSc provisions, okay? So it's like things like software engineering, animation, you can actually see the list anyway. So I'm not going to bore you with the lists, but at Kingston, we have actually a comprehensive list of courses which are related to STEM, and you will find a PG course, postgraduate course, which is actually related to your career ambition. So these actually page are related to computing, and these are the courses related to engineering and technology, which includes aerospace engineering, robotics, automotive engineering, manufacturing systems, mechanical engineering, mechatronic. Now, just in case you guys actually don't know exactly what mechatronic is, it's actually the mechanical plus electronic engineering. Okay, so it's a bit of both. And then finally, renewable energy, which actually look into the recycling of plastic waste or other materials which can be actually recycled, how we actually harness the solar energy and wind power and so on. And then product design engineering, which I mentioned early on, which includes 3D printing as well. Now, these are actually some of the job prospects you can field. Cars, data communication, aeroplane, production, construction management, design, from prototype all the way into final products, okay? So we actually cover all these in our courses from the very beginning, designing actually a car, through virtual environments, into prototype, and then into final products. Not to mention, actually, the world now is actually very conscious about energy, partly because of actually the conflict may be actually happening between USA, the West of the world, and Russia. So we need to therefore actually sort of, plan our future about our energy consumption more carefully. So our course, for example, renewable energy, offers actually subjects such as a solar panel, wind power, turbine, and so on and so forth. So, and also, don't take my word for it, there are a lot of jobs actually waiting for graduates, from renewable energy courses and so on. And at Kingston, we actually have started a renewable course about 5 years ago. The course has been actually going from strength to strength. And also it has actually attracted a lot of companies, a lot of employments. Most of our graduates actually can find a job, which is actually related to their subjects within actually 6 months, which is actually quite a big achievement, for a UK university, and we are very proud of it. Okay. Now, not to mention, obviously, on your right-hand side, the water purification, okay, which is actually still very important in a lot of actually developing countries. And then also all these actually are related to not just the present, but also to the future, space travel. You can see actually on your right top corner that this may be actually the city we will be all living in 100 years, perhaps beyond my lifetime, but some of you actually will see that happens. Now, who is going to contribute all these actually future cities? It will be you, and not me. I passed myself by date, but it will be you guys who actually study MSc in engineering and technology and computing, who can make these future cities possible. Okay, a car, for example, has got legs. They can walk, on the traffic jam. If you look at the bottom right of the slide, yeah, and then in the middle is actually the robotic suite that it can actually help disabled people to walk and then to actually sort of work live as a normal life. Okay, now I just want to draw to a close of some of the highlights of our courses. At Kingston, we actually are very proud to provide all these unique focuses on our PG courses, on our MSc courses. As my colleague Tawnya has already mentioned, many of our courses actually are practical. And indeed, we actually go one step further. We actually try to actually have a very good balance of hands-on practical, like software programming, like robotic programming, laboratory, materials, and so on, to name but a few. We actually have a lot of facilities which actually support students to have a very enriched hands-on practical experience. Now, not to forget, obviously, we also actually need to fulfill the academic part as well. So our graduates, therefore, I'm pleased to say that, they are actually a more balanced human being. Yeah? So they would be actually not only actually just academically more knowledgeable, but they also actually got the hands-on knowledge as well, the skill that the industry actually are looking for. Yeah? Now, second point, many of our modules actually are designed using a problems-led learning philosophy, i.e., we actually seek to improve existing problems. So that's why we call it problems-led, which is actually very important. And one can actually always argue, if there's no problem, there's no solution. So we always actually see there are rooms for improvement. And therefore, we actually are using this approach extensively in our teaching called problems-led learning. Now, then the third point is actually very important. This is actually worth mentioning. Our MSc courses actually are aimed to expand your first degree, not to replace it, okay? Personally, I have been actually teaching in MSc courses for the last 20 years. I see students actually benefit from this actually strategy, i.e., when you actually apply and then actually study an MSc course in Kingston, you're not actually abandoning or forgetting, all the first degree that you ever learned. We're actually adding this actually extra MSc course knowledge as a special layer, an expanded spectrum, to your career. So hence, as my colleague Tawnya already mentioned, our graduates are very employable because they actually have got the best of both worlds, their first degree and also actually their MSc degree. They actually are utterly complementing each other very, very well. Now, point number 4, we have a lot of actually state-of-the-art facilities. Now, because I'm not only from the engineering school, so I can't speak for the other schools, but if you actually look at the web pages of the individual schools and individual courses, you see lots of actually state-of-the-art facilities. And that's what we are very, very proud of. And then the point number 5 is most of our projects actually are industrial work related projects. So i.e. you're not actually just doing an academic project. Everyone can do that, but we actually try to set the students up, to actually work on projects which are industrially linked, or perhaps the problems actually are derived from real companies. Okay, so i.e. at the end of the project, you don't actually only learn the project management skill, but you actually learned how to solve the real problems as well in the real world. And finally, the unique focus of our MSc courses is we actually have employed a lot of industrially experienced speakers from industry. Okay, now why do we do that? Not because we are not good enough, but because we actually want the students to be exposed to the real world by actually listening to the lessons and experience shared by real industrial speakers, because they can actually share with you the insight of how your knowledge will be applied, what kind of jobs actually will be actually more sought after, what kind of jobs actually you will be actually able to fulfill, and so on. So we actually value very much of the input of the experienced speakers from industry. Okay, so now finally, I just noticed I got actually half a minute remaining. I just want to tell you all our MSc courses actually are accredited and approved by international standards. Okay, for example, I can speak for myself. Our MSc courses in engineering will allow you to apply for chartered engineer status. All the other courses actually have similar recognitions, i.e. once you actually graduate from those courses, you will be able to apply internationally recognized qualification. Programming, computing, engineering, pharmaceutical, and so on. They all actually accredited by professional body, which allows you to actually take your career further. Okay, now I don't think I actually got time actually to go through the rest, but I just want to tell you, our employers are actually, you can actually fill many pages with our potential employers. And you can actually see from this list that many actually top companies in the UK employed our MSc graduates, okay, like Motorola, British Aerospace, British Airways, Rolls-Royces, Ford, Jaguar, and so on. Now, these are only the employers for engineering graduates. There are similarly actually many employers actually available for computing graduates and from science graduates and so on. And now at this very point, I just noticed my time is up, so I will pass it back actually to Tawnya. And many thanks actually for your attention. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Kingston University.
All right, thank you, Andy. That was really interesting. It makes me wish that I had studied a STEM subject. Now I see that we have some questions in the box. What I'm going to do is just cover a few of my slides, and then I'll answer all of the questions you have at the very end, if that's all right, just to make sure that we go through the slides in time. Right. Postgraduate work placements at Kingston. This is a new initiative. We've just introduced it in September 2017. It has been incredibly popular, and being an international student myself, I know that it's really attractive to have the opportunity to work in the UK. Of course, you want to get a degree here, but you want the chance to also apply your knowledge and work in a place like London or anywhere within the UK. That looks really good for future employment opportunities when you go back to your home country, but it might also lead to chances to stay in the UK afterwards. If you really impress your employer, then you have a chance to stay on after you graduate. So myself, being an international student, I absolutely understand how important this is to add another dimension to your degree experience. Now, which courses offer the postgraduate work placement? All of the taught programs within these science, engineering, and computing programs offer it. It is an academic part of your degree, so therefore it's covered by your student visa. So when you apply for your visa, you will get a 2-year visa. So that includes 12 months covering the study aspect of your MSc, plus 12 months for the work aspect. It is a 2-year visa, and you don't have to worry about applying for a work permit or a work visa because it is part of the student degree experience. Now, some students have asked, what if they don't find a placement, or what happens if they change their mind? So maybe after you come to Kingston, you decide you don't want to stay in the second year. You'd rather go home. Maybe you have a family business to return to. That's absolutely fine. What you need to do is just tell us, and then we shorten you and transfer you back onto the one-year MSc program. So there's no risk involved. It's simply an extra opportunity that all students within that faculty get. Now on our website, there's a little bit more information about it on the link below if you would like to find out more. And a little bit more about the actual placement year. It can be anywhere. It can be in the UK. You can go back to your home country. You could even go to a third country, for example, my country, the US. Now, if you do go outside of the UK, you will need to apply for a work permit. So just keep that in mind. If you do the work placement in the UK, however, you don't need to worry about a work permit. Your student visa covers it. Now, you're allowed to work full time. So that's between 30 and 40 hours a week. Now, the minimum time period is 10 months, maximum 12 months. So it is a 10 to 12 month placement. Now, that's a real benefit because working somewhere for 3 months gives you wonderful exposure, of course, but up to a year, imagine the types of projects that you'll be exposed to. So it really builds your work experience. Now, the project content of the work placement must be approved by the faculty, so they need to see that it does have academic merit, but we are quite flexible. The idea is to give you as many opportunities as possible. There is a credit involved with the placement year. It's a pass-fail credit. There will be some type of assessment. Each of the faculty set their own assessment. So it might be a written reflective work, some type of assessment you submit at the end of the placement year. And as long as you complete your placement, then it would be a pass. So it will appear on your transcript. Now there is a small fee. Some students have asked about the placement fee. Now remember, the tuition fees are around £13,700 for your first year. For the second year placement year, because it is an academic year, there is a module involved. We do monitor you, check in on you. There is assessment. So there's a small fee involved. This year it's £1,070. For the future years, it has not been set yet. Now, remember, if you don't do the placement, if you change your mind, we don't charge you that fee. So that £1,000 fee is only charged after you find a placement. Which brings me on to the final point, which is very important. The responsibility for finding the placement is with you, the student. So we are not giving you the placement. We're giving you the opportunity. Now, saying that, we do offer a lot of support for Kingston students. So the placement support that we offer includes several things, such as training sessions. So our careers team do various training sessions on CV writing, where to look for placements, interview practice, application help. So that's at the central team. We have career fairs on campus, and there is an online database. So we have a database of jobs available. You can also look at some of the companies that Andy mentioned before that have hired previous Kingston students, such as British Airways, Rolls-Royce. If they've hired a Kingston student before, chances are they'd be willing to hire another student. So it's always good to target those companies. And finally, I know that within science, engineering, and computing, during the orientation week, they brought in outside consultants to offer as bespoke sessions to help students looking for placements. So there's a lot of help available. Think of it as 50-50. So we help, but you also have to do your part. So it's just an opportunity that we try to offer. So that concludes the information aspects of the slides. I've put my email address on the bottom. My name is Tawnya. You can always email me directly if you have any questions. I'm just going to look at what questions we have now. So let's have a look. Deadline for the September intake, that's the first question. We don't have a technical deadline. If you want to apply for the September intake, just make sure you apply in time to get your visa in order. So think probably the beginning of July would be the cutoff point. Now, if you want to apply for the scholarship, you will need to apply in time for the scholarship deadline. Scholarship deadline's 31st of May, so you need to apply for the course 1 month before. So think 31st of April. So end of April if you plan on the scholarship, or end of June if you're not going to apply for the scholarship. So entry requirements. Entry requirements will vary depending on the degree, but generally we look for a good bachelor's degree from a recognized Indian university. Generally around a 55% would be acceptable. Some courses may have a higher entry requirement. English language, we would accept IELTS 6.5. If you've done Indian State Board 12th Standard English and you achieve 70%, then we would accept that. So no need to do an IELTS if you've done that. Now, again, there are some exceptions with certain courses. They may have work experience requirements or certain higher academic or English language. These are general entry requirements. So there's a question about if you have an unconditional offer and you have accepted it, how do you pay to join? So after you have an unconditional offer, the next step is to pay the £3,000 deposit. After you've paid that deposit, you can then request your CAS letter, which is what you need to apply for your visa. You can only do that 3 months prior to the start date. So really, you can pay your £3,000 deposit online. You can do that now, but you won't be able to request your CAS and your visa until the end of June. And welcome. Great to hear that you have an offer to study with us. So we have another question about, so wants to do an MBA in Canada. So we're based in the UK. I would say, actually, if you're thinking, so I'm American, and I've done my undergraduate degree in the US and my master's degree, which was an MBA here in the UK. So I can talk a little bit about the difference between the UK and the US. I'm very impressed with the UK system. Of course, being American, I have some loyalty to my home country. I like the general education delivery at the undergraduate level. But in the UK, the level of teaching is at a much higher, much more focused level. So even though it's only 1 year versus 2 years in the US, you're going to graduate with a much higher knowledge level than those countries that have a 2-year delivery method. So in the UK, it's very focused on student-led. They're not going to tell you everything to read. They give you a list of interesting things to read, and it's very much independent learning. And you're treated as a scholar. So you're not going to be spoon-fed. You're going to be put into groups and you have to come up with solutions yourself. So you are treated as a scholar and a much higher level of learning. So let's see if we have any other questions. Okay. Let's see. Eligibility for scholarship. We don't have a cutoff for the scholarship. We invite anyone interested to apply. And after the deadline on 31st of May, we look at all of the scholarships and we choose the best. So year on year, there might be different grades that students will be successful. But generally what we look at would be your academic grades, your English language grades, and please include any other activities you've done, such as a work placement or work experience. If you do extracurricular like clubs and it's related to the subject, so for example, mechanical engineering, and you've been in some type of club that entered a competition, please include that because they look at all of these things when they're making the decision. So it's not just your academic grades. They do want to look at other areas. And it doesn't cost anything to apply for a scholarship. So you might as well apply. You know, the worst that can happen is you're unsuccessful. So it's worth trying. So let's see if we have any other questions. If you change your mind and the fees have been paid, will they be returned? The deposit is non-refundable, that £3,000 deposit. So make sure that you're absolutely sure before you pay any of the fees. So that deposit is non-refundable. Now, if students do come to Kingston, they've paid their deposit, something happens in the family and you need to go home, there is a cutoff point where your tuition fees can be refunded, but just that deposit is non-refundable. Andy, do you see any other questions I've missed? Let's see.
I don't think so. I think we covered everything really.
Yeah.
You know, that guy cannot see the slide, but
no. I've completed my diploma in mechanical engineering in India. Can I apply for KU for bachelor's? Is the diploma, if it's a 2-year diploma, and I'm guessing you've done 10th standard plus a 2-year diploma, then yes, you could apply for a bachelor's degree. If you have questions and you want to send your transcript to me just to have a look at, you've got my email address. Please feel free to do that, and I can forward those to the faculty. Let's see.
I think that's it.
Yep. So I think that concludes our presentation today. Many thanks to Andy Lund.
Thank you.
And my email is at the bottom. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me, even if it's not about Kingston. If you just have general questions about studying in the UK, you're not sure, you're deciding about the UK versus Canada or another country, I'm happy to give you any guidance or answer any questions you may have. So look forward to hearing from you in the future.